Hey, what's good with y'all? Today, I ain't even gonna hold y'all. Astrophysicists. Okay, I ain't know what that word was, man. I was about to be like, oh. Okay, but today we got two astrophysicists debate free will. I'm gonna give y'all something new, right? I'm gonna give y'all something new because I don't know how this gonna go. But let's see how it happens. Subscribe to the channel, turn on the post notifications. Y'all know what to do. And let's get right into the debate. You know, I don't like wasting no time, no nothing. And just know, if your day going bad, it's only going to get worse if you make it worse. You got to think of it being positive. And when you think of it being positive, it'll come to good. All right, let's go.
Charles, I want to compare notes.
Okay.
On free will.
Oh, one of my favorite things.
Isn't it?
About.
Shark Talk, Star Talk.
Here's my take. It is true that at some level of resolution that we can observe, causality is absolutely true. Given these initial conditions, this is what will happen afterwards.
That's the physicist.
That's the physicist you're speaking to.
Okay, let me get my notepad out, because while they talking, man, I ain't trying to lose none of them, you know? Okay, so we talking about free will. This is a metaphysical philosophy, right? So, free will. The metaphysical philosophy of free will.
If you take it to its logical conclusion, then there is no free will because everything is predetermined by things that...
Everything has an antecedent.
Whether you know it or not, something is causing it to happen.
Something precipitated the thing that caused the thing that made
it's
that
always
happen.
going to happen. But there is also stochastic uncertainty in the universe. It's built in. There's randomness, there's unpredictability.
Chaos.
Yeah, and so you have to ask, I think, if you're a physicist, what level of chaos actually affects you to the extent that you could actually make an instantaneous decision based on other stuff that's not necessarily in your past experiences or what you have just seen in your current environment. Right? But wouldn't all those
That's a good point. It's interesting. So like he's saying what like free will, I wonder, is he saying he doesn't believe in free will? He does, but basically that if that anything outside of your environment can affect how your free will works, something could affect it and change drastically how you view life. So does that mean you have free will?
Past experiences and your current environment, despite the fact that if you're introducing an element of chaos so that you've never experienced this ever before, your experiences that you have had would then inform your decision about the thing that you've never experienced.
Inform is the word.
Oh.
Is it
Rather
inform
than
or dictate?
predicate. Right.
Right, or require.
Oh.
Right, that's the thing. Yeah, let's say you're in a room with a whole bunch of audience members. You tell a joke.
Right.
It falls flat. In that moment, you have many things you could do to turn it into a laugh point.
True.
Right?
True.
You hear silence, and you'd be like, oh, that was good. And everyone laughs. Or, so you make some
Or
sort
is
of
this mic on? That's
right.
the old one.
Right.
What do you do? Do you have the freedom to choose one of several choices that you had designed from your past, that you prepared to deal with that eventuality?
I want you to have a really fun summer out here. I only have one rule. Stay out of the basement.
Or is the choice made for you already?
But if he was less experienced, he might not dig out of that hole
Yes.
as effectively or efficiently.
Exactly.
But if you've been in 100 cases where you had a joke bomb,
Right.
you have data on how to pull out of it.
Exactly.
So statistically, you have a chance of getting people
And it happens
smile.
instantaneously.
Mhm.
You don't even realize that it's happening.
It's in the moment.
But yeah.
Right.
Did you have free will to not?
See, that's right.
Right.
So,
You just answered it. He did have the free will to not. He has the free will to do it and the free will not to do it. It's just on him to decide on the free will. It's a good question. This is already gonna like make you think deep. So he does. Ooh. Did he have the free will to choose to change that joke, knowing that he could change the joke? But if he had the free will to choose to change the joke, would it not predetermined if based on... It's a lot. That's a lot to think about. Ooh.
now, that would be interesting because here you are in a place where your instinct, your training, and
Your
your
10,000
desire,
hours, 10,000 hours,
right,
whatever it is.
will, as a reflex, cause you to say this, this, and this, and then people go, wow, that was great. Look how he turned it
So,
around.
Charles, can I say in that comment
Yeah.
that he preloaded his neurosynapses so that in that moment they all tripped.
Right.
They tripped meaning triggered
That's right.
to go to the solution to that problem.
Right. The same is true.
But then I wouldn't have free will at that point.
That's
It
what
would
I'm
just
saying.
be a response. What I would have is a response to a
That's right.
situation,
Yes.
not necessarily. I wasn't really choosing that.
It chose it for you.
It chose it for me.
You have 5 choices, and then your system chooses one of the 5. Or
In that moment.
In that moment, right? And so in that moment, you are not exercising free will. Did you set it up, though, with free will in the past so that you could react this way deterministically, but you actually were in control of the circumstance, right? Here's another physical example of that. A football player is trying to sack a quarterback.
Okay.
The quarterback jukes left. The person trying to sack the QB doesn't have enough time to think about whether to move left or right or up or down. It has to react based on years of training and practice and experience. So in that moment, that action is not free. But in the setting up of that moment, if it was free enough, does that constitute free will?
Yes.
From a physics perspective,
That makes
it
sense.
might not. Then again, from a psychological point of view or from a biological point of view, it might.
But what good are you if you're not landing on one side or the other? I don't need you to. It could be this, it could be that, and I'm right both ways. Whichever the actual answer is, I was right.
Yeah. Well, he's saying I don't really have the free will to make that determination. I'm going to be right.
That's interesting, though. Yeah, like to sack the quarterback, you'd have to have the years of experience of understanding how to get to the point to make the decision at the moment when it's determined to do it. Huh. But does that mean you have the free will to do that? I think we do have free will, according to what he thinks. I think he does believe in free will. But let's see.
Or wrong. Let's just ask an opinion. In my opinion, I would like to have free will exist in this universe, even though philosophically it can be argued that it does not exist.
Are you happy with a world where you perceive free will, even if it isn't?
But a philosophical argument is not a factual argument. It's just philosophical. Huh. Let's see.
Maybe. This has to do with the movie Arrival, right, starring Amy Adams,
Yes.
where if you know how your future is going to turn out, would you like to live your life anyway? Right? And the answer is yes, I would.
Yes, probably.
But I still would like to think that the future is not yet predetermined.
No, but I know what? It's different. I'm not saying it's predetermined and you know it. I'm saying, would you still be happy with life if some alien said, "Look, David, your life is predetermined. There's nothing you can do about it. Keep on believing you have free will," and then they go back to their planet.
You're a puppet on a string.
Puppet on a string.
That's
from the free will puppet.
You're a free will puppet on a string.
But your life's not predetermined. I don't think your life is predetermined. That's interesting.
I would say in that case is that I would hope that the knowledge that I have that puppet on the string circumstance allows me to circumvent it. I can find a way. If it's fate, right? You've seen so many Greek mythology stories where you try to avoid the fate of whatever the gods have
And
destined
the act
for
of
you.
avoiding it
The act
makes
of
it
avoiding
happen.
makes it happen.
Like Oedipus, for example.
Oh.
Right.
Be the
An Oedipus
most,
complex, yeah.
egregious
Yeah.
example.
Sorry.
So the bottom line is
That has
yes,
nothing to
I
do
would
with it,
still
what you're
be
saying.
satisfied with trying to do something different because even the illusion of trying to do something different is in itself a form of free will. Physics-wise, though,
It's not.
that's the challenge.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So Neil, if you had to right now decide that free will does exist or doesn't exist, what would you prefer?
My thinking over the recent years, because I didn't used to think about this at all, my thinking over recent years is leaning towards the absence of free will for practically everything we think and do in our lives. And I base that on the fact that over time, things that we have done as people in our species, at one time was you were totally to blame for that, or something you did, or something we've learned, no, this person is more susceptible than you are to addiction.
Right.
There's a biochemistry there. This person cannot just be made the life of the party because they're on the autism spectrum. They don't control that in the way you might think they should, just because you're the life of the party. As you add up all of these things, let's go back to epilepsy, where before that was even a word, you were occupied by the devil. Did you do something bad? Or, well, you knew it was not everyone knew you were not in control of it. But today, no one is saying, did you have the free will to not have an epileptic seizure? Of course not. Do you have the free will to not be depressed? The person who's ready to jump off the bridge, in that instant, do they have the free will to not jump off the bridge? I don't think so. And the more
Interesting. I disagree with him. I think that you do. You completely have the free will to do all the things that he just named. Even as a person who's... Now, that is a good point, though. Somebody who's born autistic is a certain kind of way so they can't be the life of the party. But, so is he saying that you can't develop from that? Like, if you're not the life of the party, you can't learn to become the life of the party. I'm actually interested in that. Like, you don't have the free will to make those. I think you do. I genuinely think you do have that choice to make that choice. But I don't know. This is good. This is a great conversation.
more I add up and explore the human condition, I'm forced to conclude that the direction we are headed is that we are all products of an absence of free will, and as a result, society needs more compassion for people who do not otherwise fit in.
Mm-hmm. See, I have the exact opposite.
I get what he's getting at. We need compassion in a sense, but at the same time, though, if we don't have free will, then that means people who are born poor are predetermined to be poor, but some people can rise out of that. People who aren't boxers, born boxers, can become boxers. People who aren't born the life of the party can become the life of the party. Epileptic seizures is something that's a medical condition. Like, physically, I don't think you can control that. Or maybe you could. Maybe there's ways that you can avoid having the seizure. I don't know. It's pretty interesting.
In my own mind, I feel that it is because of the absence of free will that you see in most behavior, that it is that 1% of free will activity that moves us in the right direction, bends us toward compassion, takes the arc of history toward justice.
But but going back to what Neil just said, there are people who actually suffer from personality disorders, that suffer from brain disorders, where they can't do what you just said. They can't express compassion. They can't move
There was
towards
a day when no one even...
But they can develop it. They can learn it. They can learn it and try to understand it. Like, there was a book, The Wisdom of the Psychopath, where the psychopath doesn't have the ability to be able to compassionately compare, have compassion for where you are, right? But at the same time, it was saying that one quote in the book that really made me think about it was, just because I don't care doesn't mean I don't understand. The psychopath understands, they just don't care. So with that understanding could be a choice of whether or not that person wants to react compassionately the way society sees compassion, or doesn't see compassion. So I definitely still think you have free will to make that choice. Definitely do.
even thought to analyze it that way,
Right.
as a brain disorder.
Yeah, you were just an a-hole.
Yeah, exactly.
That was it.
Now, if they can't, you can.
Exactly.
Can show that person compassion or understanding.
So if-
and therefore, free will as an entity exists.
Charles, you're drawing
Even
a line
even if
that I have seen be in constant motion over the decades and over the centuries. That
Interesting.
line that you're saying, they don't have free will, but I do, I don't know that I can...
See, I have free will over some things and not over others.
Okay.
Someone can see me and say, that person needs help in this way and has the free will to help me. I see somebody else who needs this help and free will. Together, it is a network. It's not that any
So
individual...
you have to draw the line for every individual and even perhaps for society.
Okay.
Does the criminal who's born in poverty have free will to not be a criminal? If most of the
Yes.
people in prison came in below the poverty line.
Great
So there's some
question.
sociological force
Right.
operating there
So this
that where we are less susceptible to that force.
I think that's a great question, analogy.
Yes, because they can choose whether or not they want to be criminals or not. You can choose whether or not you want to be a criminal or not. But you are subjected to what is in your environment. So because it explains why some people actually rise out of those socioeconomic conditions, some don't. You know, it's what I don't know. I think it's I don't think it's predetermined.
Let's say this. Say those folks who have been branded criminals by our society are incarcerated.
Yes.
We can then, who we're fortunate enough not to face those same circumstances, who are not incarcerated, can look at these incarcerated people, and instead of saying we must keep them away from society, welcome them back.
So that's called restorative justice.
Yeah,
that's
and that's a free will example of the exercise of free will.
Of society.
Of society toward individuals who may not have had the options, had the life experience to recover from a bombed joke.
I saw an old movie where there's a guy who was a junkie.
Yeah.
Right? And he needed help. But they said, no, the cops came and arrested him because he was a junkie. Right. Today, you wouldn't do that.
Right.
You would say the person needs help.
They need,
right. Even if that person had robbed somebody, that person needs treatment. And the people who cannot shake whatever it is that afflicts them tells me that free will cannot be as free as we think it is. Do you remember the shooter in University of Texas at Austin?
I remember that.
Okay.
I remember that.
There's a movie they made out of it called The Tower,
Okay.
where he left a note saying, I just want to kill people. Something must be wrong with my brain. Please, when I die,
look into this.
They looked, and there was a tumor putting pressure on a part of it. In fact, that's how we learn anything about how the brain works when you have situations like this.
Person had the free will to write a note. He had the free will to write the note.
Facts.
So he did not have the will to resist shooting. But that's the line that you were talking about is a partial one.
Why isn't that line always in motion as we learn more and more about how the mind works? Okay, so then maybe it's a line of convenience today, but tomorrow we're going to find out, oh my gosh, that person has no real free control over their behavior, over their person.
This is a great conversation. Oh my God, it's going in so many different directions. Neil is making a good point. He's really making a good point. The other guy's making a good point too, though. So Neil is talking about people who have neurological problems in the brain. Neurological problems. The man had a tumor. He grabbed a rifle. He couldn't control it. He wanted to shoot people, right? But he had the free will to write the note to tell people to check his brain to see why it was that way. Was what the other guy is saying, which leads to some level of free will among some people. There's an interesting thing, like this is a conspiracy thing, but I want y'all to think, not think about it, but like write about it in the comment section if you can, where people talk about how some people are NPCs and some people aren't. You ever heard of that? I don't know. It's interesting. Like y'all look into it, but this is a great conversation, man. Wow.
Personality, over their tendencies, over their treatment of others.
It's not a line of convenience.
Oh.
It is, in your words, a perimeter of ignorance. When Newton said we couldn't explain certain things,
right?
God must have done it.
Of course.
That's a God of the gaps.
Of course.
That delineates what we don't know.
God of the gaps.
The line you describe, I hope, is in fact that perimeter of ignorance which we slowly are moving toward and moving so that we do understand what the true nature of free will is.
So this is where people will push back. Most people are concerned not about the actions, but the consequences. So what they're thinking about is the punitive response to someone who does something wrong. And is a punitive response a deterrent for somebody doing something wrong or doing something wrong in the future?
Especially if they don't have the free will, right? So there's the other side of this entire.
Yeah, I'm interested in what he's gonna say, because if everybody doesn't have the free will to make the choices of what they're doing, why would we punish anybody who's born in a poverty-stricken condition who commits crime if we know that poverty is relative to crime, right? If we know that, right? That's a good point too. We're judging society based on things that could be predetermined based on the societal norm that the person is subjected to. Oh, this is definitely a mind brain. Definitely. Oh, I like this. It's good. It's real good.
Analysis is how does society interact with people who are being brought into the circle day by day. We're learning what we have control over and what we don't. Biophysiologically, intellectually, emotionally. Why do people need anxiety meds? Do they have the freedom to not
they have
be
children.
anxious?
That is why. That is why I'm telling you, I'm taking them every day. I've got 3 reasons that I take them every day.
Some kids need them because they have parents. I'm just saying.
Very nice.
Okay, so Charles, if we're going to exit this conversation,
Yeah.
if we find a point of agreement, it's that this perimeter of ignorance, we recognize inside the perimeter there are forces operating against free will.
Yes.
Our physiology, our neurochemistry,
Yes.
and physics.
Yes.
That surely that perimeter may grow,
Yes.
but it's possible that there's a limit to how far it will grow,
Yes.
beyond which we have to admit the existence of free will.
Yes.
Okay, I'll give you that.
There.
Very nice. That's a great
It
judgment.
doesn't have to be absolute in one direction or another.
Yeah.
It's a bit more fluid. Okay.
And I'm okay
Alright.
with that. There is uncertainty in the universe. I embrace it.
I'll tell you this much. I've been married for 20 plus years. I do not have free will.
On that note, Chuck and Charles, thanks for helping us with this explainer.
Awesome.
On the perspectives, let's call it. Emergent perspectives on free will. Neil deGrasse Tyson for Star Talk, yet another explainer in the universe. Keep looking up.
Nah, man, that was really good. Yeah, that went. So the ending point that they came to was the ignorance of what we understand about the universe is the reason why free will could be on both ends. That's what they both agreed to. I like that ending. That was a really good ending. Definitely a lot of questions. Hey, whew, that was good. All right, I like that one. I like that video. I liked it, that one. I hope I'm gonna do more like that because I like that personally. I like that one. So anyways, it's deep thinking because I feel like in life we don't get enough time to think deep about nothing. Like you really don't communicate with too many people in your life that think deep. Everybody's just dry and bland. But like when you come across 2 people that are like thinking about it in such a deep way, that deep thought could change our society in a way. Because what Neil deGrasse Tyson was saying is definitely something that we could like actually think about, right? Like people may not be able to control their socioeconomic, no, they can't control their socioeconomic conditions. So if they're born in a socioeconomic condition that leads to something that's bad, should we really be punishing that or should we change the socioeconomic condition? However, though, the other guy's point was really good too, because if people have the free will to make whatever choice they want to make in life, then maybe we can alter some of these choices even if you're born in a negative socioeconomic condition. And maybe that does need to be punished and there needs to be some kind of example for people who react to it in that kind of way. So the other side of it is that you can alter even if you're in that socioeconomic condition by that ability to be able to have free will. Definitely a dope conversation. But I'm out, y'all.